For years, the Love Boat promised romance, laughter, and happy endings that always sailed into the sunset. But once the cameras stopped, reality hit much harder than any storm at sea. Behind those familiar smiles were silent addictions, vanished fortunes, and lives that unraveled far from the spotlight. Stay with us as we explore their real life in 2026. Gavin MacLeod as Captain Merrill Steubing. Captain Merrill Steubing, the steady authority figure in the Love Boat, was portrayed by Gavin MacLeod. At 46 years old, he became the emotional anchor of the Pacific Princess for the series in 1977. Week after week, he guided romances, conflicts, and quiet goodbyes with calm authority. That calm image was shaped by a difficult beginning. Born Alan George. On February 28, 1931, in Mount Kisco, New York, MacLeod grew up during the Great Depression in a financially strained household. His father, George C., an electrician, died young, forcing Gavin to mature early and live with constant insecurity. Carrying that weight into adulthood, he struggled through early work such as The Sword in the Stone, 1963, and appearances on McHale's Navy, 1962 to 1964, before finding stability. The pressure eventually spilled into his private life. He married Joan Rutvick in 1955, but the marriage collapsed under severe alcoholism and emotional distance, ending in divorce in 1972. He married Patty Steele in 1974. That relationship also ended in 1982 as addiction worsened, before they reconciled and remarried in 1985 after his recovery through faith. MacLeod later admitted his depression became so severe that he came close to suicide. Finally, Gavin MacLeod died at his home in Palm Desert, California on May 29, 2021, at the age of 90, from natural causes. He was buried at Forest Lawn Cemetery in Cathedral City. His estimated net worth at death was around $10 million, built through television success, memoir sales, and long-term cruise line partnerships. His final chapter was quiet, following a life marked by struggle hidden behind a steady smile. Ted Lange as Isaac Washington. On the Love Boat, Isaac Washington was more than just the bartender. He was the ship's heartbeat. The smile, the finger point, the warm one-liners all came naturally on screen. Ted Lange was only 29 when the series launched in 1977, but the ease he projected had been earned the hard way. Born Theodore William Lange III. On January 5, 1948, in Oakland, California, Lange grew up in a black family navigating racism, financial instability, and fractured family life after his parents' divorce. Those pressures followed him into his formative years. He began carving a path through theater and early screen work, appearing in Wattstacks, 1973, and That's My Mama, 1974 to 1975. That tension carried into his personal life as success arrived unevenly. Lange married Cheryl Thompson in 1978, and together they had 2 children. But the demands of fame and constant work pulled the marriage apart, ending in divorce in 1989. In 2001, he remarried Mary Leigh, finding a quieter, more private stability away from public scrutiny. Rather than chase the same spotlight, Lange quietly shifted direction. He moved into directing and writing, working on series such as Dharma and Greg while building a serious theater resume. The transition was artistically fulfilling but financially risky, with several projects struggling to find commercial footing. Recognition came differently this time, including the NAACP Renaissance Man Theater Award, respect replacing fame. Now, Ted Lange is 78 years old and continues to work as a director, playwright, and mentor, largely outside the mainstream spotlight. His estimated net worth is around $4 million, built through acting, directing, and writing. Bernie Kopell as Dr. Adam Bricker. Dr. Adam Bricker, the ship's doctor of the Love Boat, was played by Bernie Kopell. At 44 years old, he joined the series in 1977 and became a familiar presence balancing humor with restraint. His sarcasm often softened moments of emotional tension on board. That restraint was formed early. Born Bernard Morton Kopell on June 21, 1933, in Brooklyn, New York, he grew up in a Jewish immigrant family struggling financially. As a child, he worked early to support his household. In young adulthood, he began building his career through early television roles such as The Brighter Day, 1958, and appearances on My Favorite Martian while surviving on unstable income. The instability followed him into marriage. Kopell married actress Celia Whitney in 1962, divorcing 1 year later due to constant work separation. His second marriage to Yolanda Velaz in 1974 lasted over 2 decades and produced 2 children, but ended in 1995 under career pressure. In 1997, he married Katrina Honadlo, finally finding lasting personal stability. Today, Bernie Kopell is 93 years old, calculated from 2026 minus his birth year. He has largely stepped away from full-time acting, making only occasional appearances. His estimated net worth is around $3 million, earned through decades of steady television work. His story is one of endurance rather than spectacle, marked by persistence in an industry that rarely slows down for those who age within it. Fred Grandy as Burl Gopher Smith. Burl Gopher Smith, the enthusiastic purser of the Love Boat, was portrayed by Fred Grandy. At 29 years old, he joined the show in 1977 and became a familiar symbol of optimism and efficiency aboard the ship. His cheerful screen presence hid a life shaped early by loss and pressure. Born Frederick Lawrence Grandy on June 29, 1948 in Sioux City, Iowa, Grandy's childhood was abruptly upended when his father died of a heart attack, followed by his mother's death from an aneurysm just 1 year later. So he grew up carrying grief while navigating elite academic environments like Phillips Exeter Academy and Harvard University. Before The Love Boat, he built his acting resume through roles on Maude, 1973 to 1977, and other television appearances. The strain of ambition extended into his personal relationships. Grandy married Jan Goff in 1970, and they had 2 children, but the demands of acting and constant travel led to their divorce in 1983. In 1987, he married Catherine Mann, a journalist who later became a novelist, and their marriage brought long-term stability after years of imbalance. Professionally, he took an unexpected turn that invited criticism. After The Love Boat, Grandy entered politics, facing skepticism as a Hollywood actor seeking office. Despite the backlash, he served 4 terms as a U.S. congressman from Iowa, earning 8 Watchdog of the Treasury Awards, before later returning to acting with appearances such as The Mindy Project. His career became a rare blend of entertainment and public service. Today, Fred Grandy is 78 years old and remains active through political commentary, radio work, and selective acting roles. His estimated net worth is around $2 million, accumulated across acting, politics, and broadcasting. Jill Whelan as Vicky Stubbing. On The Love Boat, Vicky Stubbing wasn't another guest chasing romance. She was the captain's daughter, the reminder that this floating fantasy still had a family center. Jill Whelan stepped into that role in 1979, only 13 years old, growing up under studio lights while millions watched. The ship sailed, the love stories changed, but her presence quietly anchored the show. Born on September 29, 1966, in Oakland, California, Whelan entered the industry at an early age, balancing school with professional acting by the time she was 7. That early exposure separated her from peers and forced maturity before she was ready. Alongside The Love Boat, she appeared in projects such as Airplane, 1980, gaining visibility while quietly struggling with isolation and pressure. Adulthood brought new instability. Whelan married Brad St. John in 1993, but the marriage ended in divorce in 2001 under the weight of career uncertainty and financial stress. They had one child together. She later married Michael Tchaikovsky in 2004, a union that ended bitterly in 2014, during which she publicly stated she had only $5,000 to her name and sought child support. The public unraveling shocked fans who remembered her as television's wholesome child. Then, she moved between guest appearances, radio hosting, and behind-the-scenes work, never fully escaping the shadow of her childhood fame. Though Airplane remains a cult classic, it could not anchor long-term financial security. Her career became a patchwork of reinvention rather than continuity. Today, Jill Whelan is 60 years old. She now serves as a celebrations ambassador for Princess Cruises, reconnecting with the legacy that once defined her. Her estimated net worth is around $1.5 million, built through acting, endorsements, and media work. Lauren Tewes as Julie McCoy. Julie McCoy, the cheerful cruise director of the Love Boat, was played by Lauren Tewes. At 24 years old, she joined the series in 1977 and quickly became the bright, welcoming face greeting passengers aboard. Her smile projected ease and optimism, even as the pressure behind the scenes quietly intensified. Born Cynthia Lauren Tewes on October 26, 1953, in Trafford, Pennsylvania, she grew up in a family that moved frequently, leaving her struggling with instability and academic pressure. Those early disruptions planted deep self-doubt that followed her into adulthood. However, she still appeared in television roles such as Starsky and Hutch, and later Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders, 1979, building momentum while still fighting insecurity. As fame accelerated, her private life unraveled. Tewes married John Wassell in 1977, but the marriage collapsed in 1981 as cocaine addiction took hold during the height of her success. She later married Paolo Nonis in 1985, but that relationship ended in 1995 under similar strain. Addiction pushed her into severe depression, and she later admitted she came dangerously close to suicide as her career and self-worth collapsed simultaneously. The professional consequences were brutal. In 1984, after 7 seasons, she was fired from the Love Boat due to her addiction, losing not only her role but millions in future earnings and long-term visibility. Though she later appeared in series such as Murder, she wrote and received a Golden Globe nomination tied to her Love Boat success, the damage to her career was permanent. She eventually rebuilt her life quietly, turning to regional theater, radio work, and even culinary training. As of 2026, Lauren Tewes is 73 years old. She continues to act occasionally while living largely outside the Hollywood spotlight. Her estimated net worth stands at around $2 million, earned through acting and later work as a chef. Ted McGinley as Ashley Ace Covington Evans. When Ashley Ace Covington Evans arrived on the Love Boat in 1984, the shift was noticeable. The photographer brought a younger pulse to a show already aware of its own age. Ted McGinley was just 26, and his presence felt less like an addition, more like the series reminding itself it could still keep up. Born Theodore Martin McGinley. On May 30th, 1958, in Newport Beach, California, he grew up in a stable environment shaped by sports and discipline. While attending USC and competing in water polo, injuries forced him to abandon athletics and reconsider his future. That pivot led him into modeling and then acting, where early visibility came through Happy Days and later Revenge of the Nerds, laying the groundwork before the Love Boat. The transition was not without pressure. As McGinley moved from one long-running show to another, he earned an unfair reputation as a killer show actor, someone who joined series near their end. The label followed him, threatening to define his career before it matured. Instead of fading, he adapted. His later success as Jefferson Darcy on Married, with children and a central role on Hope and Faith, proved longevity mattered more than superstition. McGinley became known not for ending shows, but for stabilizing them, quietly outlasting the joke made at his expense. Now, Ted McGinley is 68 years old. He remains active in television, continuing to act regularly while maintaining a private family life. Married to actress Gigi Rice since 1991, with 2 sons, he has avoided public scandal. His estimated net worth is around $5 million, not built on hype, but on survival in an industry that rarely forgives timing. Pat Klous as Judy McCoy. Judy McCoy, the replacement cruise director in The Love Boat, was portrayed by Pat Klous. In 1984, at 36 years old, she stepped into a role already loaded with controversy. Her presence marked a quiet but painful transition for the series. Born Patricia Klous on October 19, 1948, in Hutchinson, Kansas, she was raised far from Hollywood ambition. After studying biology and psychology, she moved to New York and worked as a model simply to survive. Her early acting momentum came with Flying High, 1978, followed by appearances like Aloha Paradise. When Klous replaced Lauren Tewes, the pressure was immediate and unforgiving. She was not judged on performance alone, but on circumstance, inheriting audience resentment tied to another actress's downfall. Though she remained on The Love Boat until its end, the role did not open doors afterward, and major opportunities failed to follow. Off-screen, her personal life mirrored that instability. Klous married and divorced 3 times, to Michael Meinhardt, Douglas J. Brooks, and later David Beach, navigating repeated personal resets while her acting prospects narrowed. With roles drying up, she made the difficult decision to step away from entertainment altogether. As of 2026, Pat Klous is 78 years old and fully retired from acting. She transitioned into corporate and human resources work, building a quieter life away from cameras. Her estimated net worth is around $1.4 million, earned through early television success and later professional reinvention. Teri Hatcher as Amy, one of the Love Boat mermaids in The Love Boat, was played by Teri Hatcher. During the 1985 to 1986 seasons, at just 21 years old, she was not as a leading character, but as part of the fantasy itself, a smiling, dancing presence meant to decorate the dream. At the time, no one suspected how much pain stood behind that carefully rehearsed brightness. Born Teri Lynn Hatcher on December 8, 1964, in Palo Alto, California, her childhood carried a wound that would define much of her inner life. From the age of 5, she was sexually abused by a trusted family member. Even while training in ballet, studying engineering, and slowly entering acting through early roles like MacGyver, that unresolved damage shaped her emotional world long before fame arrived. That history followed her into adulthood and marriage. She married Marcus Leithold in 1988, but the relationship collapsed within a year. Her second marriage to actor John Tenney in 1994 brought a daughter and public stability, yet ended in 2003 after infidelity and emotional distance. Behind the polished Hollywood image, depression and self-doubt remained constant companions. Professionally, her rise was dramatic and contradictory. After years of minor roles, she broke through as Lois Lane in Lois and Clark, then reached global dominance as Susan Mayer on Desperate Housewives, winning a Golden Globe and multiple Screen Actors Guild Awards. Yet success came with isolation, public tension with co-stars, and the sense of being emotionally alone at the top. Today, Teri Hatcher is 62 years old. She continues working selectively in film and television while writing and producing on her own terms. With an estimated net worth of around $50 million, her career stands as a financial triumph, but the deeper story is survival. Marion Ross as Emily Stubing. Emily Stubing, Captain Stubbing's wife in The Love Boat, was portrayed by Marion Ross. She entered the series in 1980 at the age of 52, bringing a calm, grounded presence that contrasted sharply with the show's revolving romances. Her character felt settled, seasoned, and emotionally complete, qualities earned the hard way in real life. Born Marion Ellen Ross on October 25, 1928, in Watertown, Minnesota, she grew up in poverty as one of 10 children. Her father struggled with alcoholism, and her mother left when Marion was only 12, forcing early independence and long stretches of depression. Before recognition, she worked relentlessly, appearing in films such as The Glenn Miller Story and Sabrina, often uncredited and easily overlooked. Marriage offered little relief. Ross married Freeman Meskimen in 1951, and they had 2 children, but the instability of her career and financial pressure led to divorce in 1969. As a single mother, she accepted small roles for years, living far from Hollywood glamour while simply trying to stay afloat. Recognition arrived late, but decisively. Her role as Marion Cunningham on Happy Days finally gave her visibility, earning 2 Emmy nominations and transforming her into a cultural icon. Later, The Evening Star brought a Golden Globe nomination, proving her depth at an age when many actresses had already been discarded by the industry. Now, Marion Ross is 98 years old. She appears only occasionally now, having largely stepped away after a lifetime of work. With an estimated net worth of around $10 million, her legacy was not built on sudden stardom, but on endurance. Charo as April Lopez. April Lopez, the flamboyant performer who lit up the Love Boat, was brought to life by Charo. Between 1977 and 1984, she appeared repeatedly on the show, aged roughly 26 to 33, not as a traditional character, but as an event in herself. Every entrance was noise, rhythm, and spectacle, yet none of it revealed the cost behind the curtain. Born Maria del Rosario Mercedes Pilar Martínez Molina Baeza in Murcia, Spain, Charo grew up in poverty, pushed early toward classical guitar as a way out. Trained from childhood and later mentored by Andrés Segovia, music became both refuge and escape. When she was still very young, Xavier Cugat discovered her and brought her to America, a move that looked like salvation but quickly turned transactional. Her appearances on American television exploded, including The Love Boat, variety shows, and disco-era fame, while her reputation as a serious musician was quietly dismissed. Her personal life paid the price first. Charo married Xavier Cugat in 1966, a union marked by a massive age gap and control disguised as mentorship. The marriage ended in 1978, later described by Charo herself as a business arrangement rather than love. That same year, she married producer Shel Raston, who became her manager and anchor. Together, they had a son, and for decades their marriage appeared stable, until illness and depression dismantled it. In 2019, tragedy shattered everything. Shel Raston died by suicide at age 78 after battling a rare skin disease and severe depression. Charo publicly acknowledged the emotional devastation and her own descent into grief and depression. The woman known worldwide for laughter and coochie-coochie was suddenly speaking about loss, medication, and survival, with no performance left to hide behind. By 2026, Charo is 75 years old. She continues to perform selectively, returning again and again to flamenco guitar, the art that existed before fame and outlasted it. With an estimated net worth of around $60 million, her career is a financial triumph. Florence Henderson as Annabelle Folker. Annabelle Folker, a guest presence on The Love Boat, was portrayed by Florence Henderson. She appeared on the show in 1981 at the age of 47, already carrying decades of experience and quiet authority. By then, she was no longer chasing visibility, she embodied it. Born Florence Agnes Henderson on February 14, 1934, in Dale, Indiana, she was raised in deep poverty as the youngest of 10 children. Her father struggled with alcoholism, and money was scarce enough that Florence worked from childhood to support the household. Music became her escape early, leading her from grocery store performances to formal stage training, and eventually to Broadway roles long before television fame arrived. Marriage and motherhood unfolded alongside relentless work. She married Ira Bernstein in 1956, and together they raised 4 children. But the strain of career demands led to divorce in 1985. In 1987, she married Dr. John Kappas, a hypnotherapist who had treated her for depression and stage fright, a relationship that offered emotional stability until his death in 2002. Even behind her wholesome image, Henderson quietly battled anxiety and exhaustion for years. Professionally, her identity became inseparable from Carol Brady on The Brady Bunch, a role that turned her into America's ideal mother. Later recognition included a daytime Emmy and decades of continued appearances, including The Love Boat, cooking shows, and live performances well into her 70s. Sadly, Florence Henderson passed away on November 24, 2016, at age 82 from heart failure at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. Her death came suddenly, just days after a public appearance, shocking those closest to her. She was cremated, with her ashes interred at Westwood Village Memorial Park. At the time of her death, her estimated net worth was $10 million, the result of 6 decades of work. Juliet Mills as Barbara Danver. Barbara Danver, the refined wife in The Love Boat, was portrayed by Juliet Mills. At 39 years old, she stepped onto the ship in 1980, already carrying decades of stage and screen experience. Her presence was calm, polished, and quietly authoritative, the kind that did not need to demand attention. Born November 21, 1941, in London during World War II, Juliet Mills grew up under sirens, bomb threats, and towering expectations. As the daughter of legendary actor John Mills, she lived inside a famous household where excellence was assumed, not praised. Even as a teenager, she was already working, earning a Tony nomination at 18 for Five Finger Exercise, and later carrying that weight into early screen roles like Avanti, 1972, where success arrived with pressure attached. That pressure followed her into adulthood and marriage. Her first husband, Russell Alquist, whom she married in 1961, became part of a life that fractured quickly. The marriage ended in 1964, leaving her with a son and emotional instability. A second marriage to Michael McLenda from 1975 to 1980 also collapsed, reinforcing the sense that professional endurance did not guarantee personal peace. When she married actor Maxwell Caulfield in 1980, 18 years her junior, the public reaction was brutal. Critics fixated on the age gap, predicting failure with certainty. Instead, the marriage endured. While headlines doubted her choices, Juliet rebuilt her life quietly, returning to respected work such as her Emmy-winning performance in QB7 and later long-term television stability. Today, Juliet Mills is 85 years old and still acting selectively, defying the assumptions placed on her since childhood. With an estimated net worth of $4 million, her career reflects longevity rather than spectacle. Erin Moran as Carrie Walker. Carrie Walker, a young guest passenger in The Love Boat, was portrayed by Erin Moran. At just 21 years old, she appeared on the show in 1981, still recognized everywhere as America's little sister. Her smile was familiar, but the innocence behind it had already been spent. Born October 18, 1960, in Burbank, California, Erin Moran entered acting at age 5, long before she could choose it. Childhood became work, and work replaced stability. While audiences adored her as Joni Cunningham on Happy Days, the years behind the camera were marked by exhaustion and emotional neglect, with normal adolescence quietly erased. When Happy Days ended in 1984, so did the protection it provided. Erin struggled to find adult roles, and the industry that raised her offered no second act. Her first marriage to Rocky Ferguson from 1987 to 1993 was violent and destructive, leaving emotional scars. A second marriage to Stephen Fleischman brought loyalty but constant financial strain, as eviction notices replaced scripts. Depression deepened into alcoholism, and stability collapsed entirely. Erin experienced homelessness, living in motels and trailers, surviving on residuals that barely arrived. As her health deteriorated, throat cancer emerged, untreated for too long, sealing a fate already shaped by neglect. Sadly, Erin Moran died on April 22, 2017, at age 56, from complications of throat cancer in Indiana. She passed quietly, far from Hollywood, with an estimated net worth of just $50,000. They gave us romance, laughter, and escape on calm blue waters, but their real lives were far from smooth sailing. Behind the smiles were broken marriages, lost fortunes, quiet illnesses, and battles no script ever showed. So was the dream of the Love Boat worth the price they paid after the cameras stopped rolling? If these stories moved you, like the video, subscribe and share it with someone who still remembers this show, because some journeys don't end when the ship docks.